every other morning for a while there on my job, I had the privilege of being able to listen to music, and Doolittle by the Pixies was always what I felt like listening to. I first got into this album, I would have been 17, 18. It was my last year of high school, and you're getting into trendier music here and there, and people recommending this and that, and all these people who think they're really cool, think the Pixies are great, and alright. I got into the Pixies. I had the great fortune of seeing them that year, which would have been 2014, at the Sydney Opera House, and it was great. It was a great gig. They did really well. Frank Black can still wail like a banshee, and Jerry Santiago's poetry through feedback. It was very fun to watch. Good show. Good show. However, my liking for the Pixies at that time came less from the Doolittle album, and not at all from Surfer Rosa, which I have to be honest, I still don't really like. Whereas my mind, I don't know, not my thing. And then they put out, after Doolittle, Bossa Nova and Trompe Le Monde, which I thought were their best albums. I still think Trompe Le Monde is their best album. Bossa Nova and Trompe Le Monde were just so much better to me. I thought Doolittle, I don't know, Here Comes Your Man just felt like such a... I like it now, but at the time, there were people who liked that song. I knew these people were just so full. These people enjoying like this sentimental pop song, it just came across that they were trying to come across as idiosyncratic or deep. And these guys are real seedy and shit, and fake. You know how it is. Wannabe hipsters and stuff, and I mean literal wannabe hipsters. Like they looked at the people my age at that time, looking at the people older than us who were the first hipsters and wanting to be like that. Like literally that slimy, fake, little, just other side of the coin, yuppie garbage. Given how much in every photograph of the Pixies when they were young, they were just trying to show off how little they cared that they were being photographed, oh, no smiles, oh, we were indifferent to everything. Yeah, it's no wonder these people love the Pixies so bloody much. Now, I listen to Doolittle now. I was always attracted to the fact... There were many things that attracted me about the album. I always loved the song Monkey Gone to Heaven, Mr. Grieves, Crackity Jones. There's good stuff on there. I love the fact that they were referencing Louis Buñuel's films in an album from the 1980s. Like, I mean, with the internet, that's easy enough to do. But back then, I mean, hey, I'm impressed. I listen to it now, out and about. There's a time when you're 18, you're listening to this sort of thing in your bedroom at home, and then you're listening to it with friends in other locations, and it's just kind of like, yeah. But when you're listening to it on the job, when you're trying to be enthusiastic and kind of move about and get a lot of energy, Doolittle is, oh, this is perfect rock and roll. Wow. I've known people who detest this band, in my personal life, if you're watching this and shaking your head, feel free to yell at me later about this, and that's fine. No, seriously, it has gotten to the point where I was compelled to listen to this album every other morning. Debaser, hips like Cinderella, wave of mutilation, I bleed, here comes your man. This monkey's gone to heaven, I believe in Mr. Grieves. Crackity Jones. And then I gotta love the kind of the sentimental go-go of La La Love You. There goes my gun. Hey! And there's that country thing of Silver, and then you can gouge away, if you want to. So delightfully memorable. Or is it? No, I forgot one track. Yeah, number 13. That song. Actually, my favourite Pixies release at this time might be, strangely enough, given that I didn't care for Surfer Rosa to this day, but Come On Pilgrim is amazing. I love that release. That's absolutely brilliant. Caribou. Gotta love that. Doolittle is an album I have grown to love, but plausibly really because I am so familiar with it, and I love everything that happens when it happens, and I'm like, yes, I love this, yes, all these things. It's not as though I'm, learning something new every time with it, although if I am learning something new I suppose I do, what I am captivated by is how, the kind of rock and roll energy of it, I think that gimmick of the speeding up and slowing down, that was a great way of it even though you know it's happening, it's going to happen once you know the songs well enough. If anything, that makes you and your ears kind of more akin to it, because when you're initially listening to it for the first time, you might be thinking, no, you might not be adjusted to it. You're like, what is this silly noise? But the more you adjust to the speed up, slow downs, and the more, and perhaps you're just sick of it, given how many bands are ripping that shtick off. I think Nirvana's whole thing was arguably, according to Kurt, stolen from the Pixies. So, make everyone ripping off Nirvana, ripping off the Pixies, what you will, in the 90s. So maybe that can hurt some of the appreciation for this group. Although I like the more sincere, raw production sound on this early Pixies is far better to me than the clean post-grunge garbage of the 90s. There's a predictable unpredictability to Doolittle, or a unpredictable predictability to Doolittle. That's lovely, warming, and familiar. It becomes like a blanket, which is not really what rock and roll was intended, but certainly what it was treated as by the Pixies and that by the late 1980s. Like the groups they were trying to homage, that was just kind of cozy, friendly, simpler time music at that time. And I think that's kind of why the Pixies were engaging in it. It was a certain it was vaguely punk reactionary attitude, although to excess in popular music. Although I think the Pixies did like the kind of cutesy sentiment and the functional the purpose of pop music. And I think that they did want to, and they clearly liked rock and roll when when it was intertwined with that in the 1950s, and they clearly wanted to return to that. Buddy Holly cited as an important inspiration on the album. One anecdote possibly worth sharing is the producer on this album kept requesting Frank and the gang to, lengthen the songs more so. And Frank was getting a bit frustrated at this. He said, come with me. He went out to a record shop with the guy and he purchased him a copy of Buddy Holly's first album. The songs on that album certainly don't have an extensive runtime. Frank Black claimed that if it was good enough for Buddy Holly, then it was good enough for them. The Pixies is great sardonic rock and roll, adorned with hip pop culture references, kind of trendy signals, and just a really fun kind of, post, the catalogue of popular entertainment and art being available to everyone. Even before the internet, there was kind of, they're, college town sort of band. They have this really kind of smarmy attitude toward. They're great kind of, I guess what was being called that sort of postmodern Gen X mentality, but infused with a love of the original kind of wave of popular rock and roll. It's an interesting aesthetic, and they kind of nailed it. I dig.